Over the last 8 months or so, the world has transformed before our eyes. And so has the way we interact with it. And that's true for everyone, including criminals. According to Israel police, while crime has not increased, types of crimes are changing. And so are the ways police are fighting them. Let's say hello to Micky Rosenfeld, the Israel police spokesman. Thank you, Micky, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
First of all, tell me about these statistics. How is crime evolving during the pandemic?
Well, what we've seen over the first and as well as the second wave of the period that we've been dealing with COVID-19, we've seen a decrease in the number of incidents of crime, and that's basically due to the fact that the population has been at home far more than on regular basis, and that means less thefts, less break-in of vehicles, and in general the public have been at home, which in terms of the Israeli National Police, we've been implementing the different steps and stages of COVID-19 to prevent people from not keeping social distancing, and as well as, of course, wearing masks, which is absolutely critical to their general health and safety.
Now let's talk about the police for a second. How has, fighting the crime changed? And are police feeling safe while they're patrolling the streets during a global pandemic?
Well, we've had over 300 police officers that have been confirmed with COVID-19. So, of course, as a national police force with 29,000 police officers, we have to make sure that our officers are safe in order that we can serve the population and the country. In connection to the regular police operations that have taken place, there's been a shift in terms of strategy and in terms of units. For example, over 1,000 police officers from one of our national units are now completely involved with dealing, as they have been over the last few months, dealing with COVID-19. So instead of dealing with the streets and what is going on in terms of organized crimes, we've had other units such as counter-terrorist units and top counter-terrorist units that work in the field as well, that have been dealing with criminal investigations and criminal-related issues. So there's been a shift, which has been a positive shift, in order to give full force and, of course, increase the amount of police operations that are taking place across the country.
So obviously everybody is now wearing masks in public. I'm curious, when police are searching for a suspect, I can imagine that masks make identifying criminals a lot more complicated. Has that complicated things for you?
Well, that's been one of the difficulties. For example, if somebody goes into a post office and robs the post office and he's wearing a hat and a mask on his face, as he's meant to do according to the rules and regulations. So we have to use far more technology in order to try and find that individual, because we're not using face recognition. But on the other hand, we're trying to look for suspects who are involved in crimes and criminals. So what we do is we make sure that there are more units on the ground. We're making sure that we're using more technology, more CCTV cameras around the different areas, for example, both in terms of regular crimes as well as in terms of manpower and police units on the ground.
So obviously, large gatherings like protests, but not only, have come front and center for the police, at least in terms of what the media covers. What would you say is more challenging, especially amid COVID? Breaking up a political protest or a wedding? Is there a difference in how you would approach these two very different situations?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I have to, of course, confirm that the Israeli National Police are there in order to make sure that we support the public and prevent people from getting COVID-19. One of the more complicated situations, of course, dealing with a wedding. When you come to a wedding and there's 100 or 200 people that have gathered against the rules and regulations of the Ministry of Health and Police, our units turn up there relatively on a small scale and size, and we try to disperse and make sure that people are going home and understanding the situations. But many times we've been approached, our units, sometimes female officers on the ground and male officers, have been attacked by people who are involved in the celebrations when the tensions are high. But we try and message to the public and to the leaders of the different communities, number one, not to hold weddings, and number two, to keep the exact numbers, which is under 20 in terms of a wedding. I can also confirm in terms of the protests, it's rough and tough for our units on the ground. We've had also officers that have been affected by COVID-19 during the protests. We try and make sure that people who have the right to protest in a normal manner, in a correct manner, and of course in a safety manner, by wearing those masks, as well as our officers do as well.
All right, Micky Rosenfeld joining us from a very rainy day. Thank you so much, and stay dry.
Thank you very much.